Right friends, welcome back to English Comprehension and Vocabulary. This is the 7th session and today we are going to deliberate on interest rates. Urjit Patel is bang on, and tomorrow tomorrow we are going to deliberate on ring fence RBI. Tomorrow's article is basically Times of India article which appeared yesterday, and this is with regard to safeguarding the credibility as well as autonomy of Reserve Bank of India. This we are going to deliberate tomorrow, and today on interest rates Urjit Patel is bang on. So, what is meant by bang on? Here this bang on is used with the sense of it is appropriate, it is right time, it is at the right juncture. That means he is absolutely correct and it is appropriate. So, in that context this word is used. So, he is perfectly correct when he says on interest rates. He commented on the interest rates and credit guarantees, that means interest subventions and credit guarantees. His statement is exactly correct and appropriate. That is the meaning of this. Then let us move on. Reserve Bank of India Governor Urjit Patel did the nation not to speak of his own reputation. You observe comma here, comma here. So, two commas are there. So, in between two commas some sentence or some part of the sentence is added. That means normally it explains something more or it adds another additional information. So, like that you have to view. If something is added in between commas, it acts as additional information. So, here Reserve Bank of India Governor Urjit Patel did the nation not to speak of his own reputation a major service by speaking up against large scale lowering of interest rates by means of subventions from the union budget and against credit guarantees. Urjit Patel stated the large scale subventions and large scale credit guarantees that will subvert the process, that will divert credit from the needy sections to other sections. That means entire credit process in the banking system will be distorted because of these two things. And incidentally, this statement of Urjit Patel came after the Prime Minister's announcement of giving interest rate subventions. All of you are familiar with interest rate subvention of 4% up to 9 lakh rupees loan, 3% up to rupees 12 lakh rupees loan. At the same time, this credit guarantee increased from 100 lakhs to 200 lakhs for small enterprises. So, against this backdrop, this Urjit Patel's statement came up. And here, before understanding this, you should have knowledge about subvention, interest subvention. Here, farmer pays 7%. And this 2% is paid by the central government, that is interest subsidy for export sector. It is called interest equalization scheme. So, whatever name you call it, interest subsidy, interest subvention, interest equalization, here instead of the consumer, instead of farmer, instead of poor person, government will pay that interest, that is interest subsidy or interest subvention. And the Prime Minister announced interest subvention for house loans recently up to rupees 9 lakhs, up to rupees 12 lakhs. Already interest subventions exist for farmers, interest subventions exist for export credit, or you can say to promote exports. For exports, this interest subsidy is available, that is 3%. So, to promote exports. And the third aspect is this is also known as interest subsidy, and this is also available for SHGs. So, when you talk about exports, exports have also got this interest subsidy of 3%. Agriculture, exports, self-help groups, they have interest subsidy or interest subvention. Recently, the Prime Minister announced some more interest subventions for urban housing up to 9 lakh rupees, housing up to rupees 12 lakh. So, he announced interest subventions of 4% and 3%. So, more and more interest subventions are not good for the economy, particularly banking system. That is the statement of Urjit Patel. And he also talked about the large scale credit guarantees. You may have a doubt what is meant by credit guarantee. Before understanding that, please look into this. If a borrower is known as debtor, please understand. If a borrower is taking loan from State Bank of India, if borrower or a debtor is taking loan from State Bank of India, then State Bank of India is a creditor, please do not forget. And here bank asks for some collateral guarantee. So, here this house is given as collateral. So, this is collateral security. Whenever we are taking loan, we give something as collateral security. So, here collateral is given by the borrower or debtor. But if you look at MSMEs, if you look at micro enterprises, small enterprises, they may not have any land, they may not have any building to give collateral security. Under those circumstances, government comes into picture. So, that is credit guarantee. So, government gives guarantee to the bank on behalf of small enterprise or micro enterprise, that is credit guarantee. And previously the limit was 100 lakhs and now it is increased to 200 lakhs. So, the Urjit Patel's statement is more and more credit guarantees, more and more interest subventions will subvert the entire process in the banking system. Right here, this Credit Guarantee Fund Trust for Micro and Small Enterprises, this was set up by Government of India and SIDBI. This gives credit guarantee up to 200 lakhs or 2 crores to micro and small enterprises. So, please understand clearly what is the meaning of credit guarantee, what is the meaning of interest subvention. Here the interest subvention, that subsidy is given by central government. Here credit guarantee, that means if the micro enterprise or small enterprise is not able to pay back, not able to service the loan, then central government will pay that, central government will take that risk. So, that is credit guarantee. So, having understood this, let us look at the next, let us go back to the paragraph. The paragraph is Reserve Bank of India Governor Urjit Patel did the nation not to speak of his own reputation. I will come back to this word, not to speak of, a little while later. A major service, he has done major service to the nation. Why? Why Urjit Patel has done major service to the nation? In fact, the sentence between commas, not to speak of his own reputation, that means with this statement his own reputation is also increased. So, there is, that is additional factor here. So, what I mean to convey is Reserve Bank of India Governor Urjit Patel did the nation a major service by speaking up against large scale lowering of interest rates by means of subventions. When government is giving interest subsidy, the interest rate will come down from the union budget and against credit guarantee, because why he gave this statement is union budget, government is expected to give more and more interest subventions, and in this backdrop he talked about interest subvention as well as credit guarantee. But incidentally, this statement came up after the Prime Minister's announcement of interest subventions and credit guarantee on 31st December in the eve of New Year Day. So, what is the meaning of not to speak of? Not to speak of is, I will tell you with one example, you will come to know about it. Here you look at Syria. Syria is using chemical weapons. There are reports that Syria is using chemical weapons and sometimes incendiary weapons, they are fire bombs. So, Syria is using chemical weapons on its own people, not to speak of its neighbors. The meaning of this is it is using chemical weapons on its own people, so it is to emphasize it. Look at another example, you will come to know. The rent has to be paid. There is a poor family. Poor family is staying in a small house. House rent is to be paid, school fee is to be paid, and here not to speak of means additional factor that also should be considered. So, not to speak of, Read this sentence. The rent has to be paid, not to speak of a school fee. The rent has to be paid, not to speak of a school fee. So, here if you come back to the original sentence, Reserve Bank of India Governor Urjit Patel did the nation not to speak of his own reputation. His reputation was also increased because of this statement. For the nation he has done major service. This indicates for the nation, please understand, because this commas, in between commas you have to leave it and read it once again. So, Urjit Patel did the nation a major service by speaking up against so and so, right. Let us go ahead, let us go to the next paragraph. Next paragraph is with regard to the, in a well functioning market, in any well functioning financial market, the interest rate offered on a particular enterprise, the interest rate offered on a particular enterprise includes, this is very simple language, I am not explaining you anything, includes, besides the cost of money in general, besides the cost of money in general, a risk premium that is tailor made for that particular enterprise in its particular line of business, reflecting the likelihood of the said enterprise succeeding. The meaning I will explain you with this picture. All of you are familiar with MCLR. This MCLR is around 8% nowadays, marginal cost of funds based lending rate. MCLR means except some exempted categories, no one should get loan at below MCLR. There are some exempted categories, there are some interest subventions, I am not going into those aspects, but in general below the MCLR no loan is to be given, and above MCLR you see house loans are at around 9%, 8%, mortgage loans are at around 10%, 11%, corporate loans are around 12%, 13%, personal loans are around 15%, 16%. Why there is a difference? Why can't all the loans base rate 9% or 10%? Why there is a difference? So, if you understand this, you can understand that long sentence. How do you understand this? Here house loans are at 9% or around 8%, then mortgage loans 11%, corporate loans 12%, personal loans 16-17%, credit card advances 36%, and here this all depends on the risk element. This all depends on the risk. Above MCLR, the interest rate structure for each and every loan product depends on the risk. So, spread depends on the risk. So, the risk premium depends on the risk element. Risk premium means whatever above MCLR, this is known as a spread. House loans are just 0.5% above MCLR, corporate loans are 3% above MCLR, personal loans are 5% above MCLR. Why this spread? This is known as a spread. So, this spread depends on risk element. So, banks loan interest rates depends upon risk element. No one can dictate. What will happen if government is reducing interest rates for one particular sector? Then what will happen? There is every possibility that credit will flow in that direction only. Subsequently, what will happen? It will distort the entire process of banking. If government is giving excessive interest subvention to one particular sector, then what will happen? Then entire credit, almost substantial part of the credit, there is a very likelihood that it may move in that direction. That is why the distortion of loan process will take place. So, here please understand this sentence, there is possibility of distortion. So, here in a well functioning market, the interest rate offered to a particular enterprise, I have to shown you different types of loans. Particular enterprise means different types of loans, corporate loans, house loans, mortgage loans, personal loans, like that. Besides the cost of money in general, a risk premium above particular baseline, the interest rate depends on the risk of that product, and accordingly that is with particular spread, or you can say the risk element dictates spread. Risk premium depends on the risk. That's why interest rates for various loan products are different. It all depends on the risk element. At the same time, how the enterprise will succeed, that also another factor, right. So, a risk premium that is tailor made for that enterprise in its particular line of business, reflecting the likelihood of the said enterprise succeeding, right. Distorting interest rates, as I have already told you, distorting interest rates is likely to end up misallocating resources. When the interest rates are distorted because of interest subventions, because of credit guarantees, then there is every likelihood that misallocation of resources may take place. One particular sector may get substantial resources and one particular sector may not get loan at all. If government is giving interest subvention to MSMEs, let us take for example, if government is giving interest subvention to housing sector, credit guarantees to MSMEs, then these two sectors may get more loans irrespective of their risk profile, and other sectors like personal loans, other sectors like corporate loans, other sectors like mortgage loans may not get that preference. So, here distorting interest rates is likely to end up misallocation of resources, right. And here distortion. Distortion means to change something from its original natural condition. That means it is deviated from its natural condition, to change something deliberately, that is a distortion. This article gave gross distortion of facts. Facts are not stated in this article, it totally modified the facts and you can say it distorted the facts. Then you look at another example, misallocation. If our entire budget is allocated to purchase of defense equipment, that is misallocation. So, misallocation means not to use in a particular or desirable way. The resources are to be allocated uniformly, but not to one particular sector. So, misallocation of resources is not good. Even in your house also, resources should be properly allocated, and distortion leads to misallocation. So, distortion leads to misallocation. This is very important. Here various types of loans are there. So, if you are giving interest subvention to house loans, what will happen to others? So, that is the essence of that paragraph. Next, money has alternative opportunities for deployment. Money has got alternative opportunities. If a risky venture could attract capital because someone is willing to subsidize a part of its interest cost, everyone knows that such and such industry is risky. Everyone knows the housing project of so and so entrepreneur is risky. Everyone knows that the housing project of so and so construction company is risky and it is not up to the quality. Then it attracts capital because government is willing to subsidize part of its interest cost. It could in the process, what happens? Deprive another venture that has lower risk, but does not have anyone to subsidize its interest cost. So, here misallocation, because of the distortion of interest rates, misallocation of resources may take place. So, this deprive another venture. Here you see, suppose if this housing venture is risky, if A housing venture is risky, but if the infrastructure or highway project of B is less risky, naturally both of them should get due recognition in the banking loan process. But what will happen because of the interest subvention for this risky housing project? Then more and more banking resources will come towards this housing sector instead of going to infrastructure. So, here deprive means taking something necessary away from something, deliberately taking something away. In the normal process, this highway will get due recognition, But in this particular case, what happens? Because of interest subventions, because of distortion, because of misallocation, that means because of distortion, misallocation takes place, and here because of misallocation, certain sectors may be deprived of its loans, right. So, here someone is willing to subsidize something, so here resources will be distorted, not just of capital, but also of land, workers, power, entrepreneurial energy, of a chance to farm and get going. So, because of this distortion, misallocation of resources in the banking system may go to only particular sectors. Because of that, other sectors may be adversely affected. That is the meaning of this paragraph, right. So, let us look at deprived. I will tell you another example here. Deprive, what is the, how to put it in a better way? Deprive means, all of you are familiar with China. Some citizens in China say that they are deprived of freedom of expression. So, here forcibly China has taken away freedom of expression. They cannot express freely just like in our country. So, here some citizens in China say that they are deprived of freedom of expression, and in the present article some sectors will be deprived of allocation of resources, right. So, this is the meaning. Then the inherent risk which cannot be mitigated by interest subvention. Some sectors may have inherent risk. MSMEs is one such example, and some of the housing projects may have inherent risk, and MSME, some of the MSMEs have got inherent risk, and the inherent risk which is a natural part of that, which is a natural trait of that project, cannot be mitigated, cannot be reduced by interest subvention. Through interest subvention, the risk part cannot be reduced. Inherent means essential character of something. Normally, housing projects are not risky. Please do not take that way. I have taken only for example this particular housing project. This particular housing project is risky, everyone knows, and this particular MSME is risky. And risky, that is inherent, that is essential character of something. So, this particular MSME, the risk is inherent, that is essential part of something. So, here inherent means existing as a natural or basic part of something. If it is naturally in existence, and if you provide more money with interest subsidy, that risk cannot be reduced, and it leads to misallocation of resources. So, this is the meaning of this sentence. Please go through it. The inherent risk, the risk which is essential part, which is natural part of that particular enterprise, cannot be mitigated, cannot be reduced by interest subvention, might sink that project that did get funded, and the result would leave society poorer for not having funded the intrinsically less risky project. So, if in the name of interest subventions, if more and more money is allocated to inherent risky projects, it cannot reduce the risk, it cannot mitigate the risk. What is the meaning of mitigation? Mitigation means to make something less harmful, pleasant, or bad, less bad, you can say. So, to make something less harmful. To make something less harmful is mitigation. Quite frequent, we come across this. Switch over to electric vehicles can mitigate global warming. Global warming is already a problem. Mitigation means reducing it. Reducing the harmful effects is mitigation. And in the particular paragraph, if the inherent risk is there, that cannot be reduced by interest subventions. And if you continue it further, this will rob the projects. And here please go through this paragraph once again. The paragraph says the inherent risk which cannot be mitigated by interest subvention might sink that project that did get funded. That project may be totally go away because it is having risk. Interest subvention cannot take that risk out, and the result would leave society poorer. The society will become poorer, the country will become poorer, because not having funded the intrinsically less risky project. We have not funded less risky project, we have funded risky project because of the reason it is getting interest subsidy. Under those circumstances, there is no fund for less risky project. We have funded risky project and that will sink. Overall, what is the result? The result is the society will become poorer, not having funded the intrinsically less risky project. What is meant by intrinsic? Intrinsic means essential nature of a thing, basic characteristics, and extremely important. The basic difference between inherent and intrinsic is essential part or essential nature of something and it is extremely important. I have given 3 examples. Diamonds have got high intrinsic value. So, diamond, the value is intrinsic. Geography is intrinsic part of school curriculum. Without geography, school curriculum is not there. It is extremely important, intrinsic part of school curriculum, and paper currency has no intrinsic value. What is the meaning of this? Nowadays, paper currency, if tomorrow government says that we are going to demonetize this, then it is to be tear off. That is one aspect. Other aspect is no intrinsic value. What is the meaning? The value depends on the market conditions. If today kilogram of dal is rupees 200, you will get 10 kgs. If tomorrow the kilogram of dal is rupees 1000, you will get just 2 kgs. So, it has got no intrinsic value. The value of the rupee or the value of rupees 2000 stems from the market value. So, that is the meaning of this intrinsic, right. So, here the sentence, let us read once again, and the society will become poorer because we are not funding less intrinsically projects and intrinsically less risky project, and at the same time we are funding risky projects because of interest subvention. So, both the sides, society will be the loser. Subvention might sink that project that did get funded. He is talking in past tense. Subvention might sink that project that did get funded because of risk is there, and the result would leave society poorer for not having funded the intrinsically less risky project in the first phase, right. This is, I think, a repetition of the sentence. Let us leave it here and let us go back to the next paragraph. The next paragraph says that a similar logic applies to credit guarantees. I made you clearly understand what is meant by credit guarantee. So, similar logic applies to credit guarantees by the government. Tempering with the cost at which capital is available to an enterprise is a recipe for misallocating and wasting resources. Here tempering with the cost. Tamper means, here I have given 2 examples. Do not tamper with the machine. That fellow has not got any idea about it. So, do not tamper with the machine, do not tamper with the proof. So, here to change something without permission or without enough knowledge of how it works, that is the meaning of tampering. And recipe, this recipe is used in cooking basically. It is basically set of instructions telling how to prepare and make good food. So, that is recipe. Here this is used in the context. The similar logic applies to credit guarantees by the government. Tampering with the cost at which capital is available to an enterprise is a recipe for misallocating and wasting resources. So, this is the book, or you can say these are the instructions for misallocation of resources, and welfare will be lowered in general. So, do not give much credit guarantees. Subsequently, what will happen? If you give more and more credit guarantees, then the subversion of the process will take place. Right. Let us move on to the next paragraph. Of course, interest subventions and credit guarantees are useful and necessary in small doses. These are necessary in small doses to compensate for risk perception arising from lack of information and large transaction costs in resolution in case of failure. So, sometimes in small doses they may be useful, but not in larger scale. That is the meaning of this sentence, coming as the RBI governor's warning does in the wake of the Prime Minister, in the wake of it, this is quite frequently come across, in the wake of recently, all of you are familiar with the Bihar boat accident 2 days ago, 3-4 days ago, an inquiry committee was constituted. In the wake of boat tragedy in Bihar, a subcommittee on digital transactions headed by Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister was constituted in the wake of demonetization. That means it is following something as a consequence. Under those circumstances, in the wake of is to be used, and here in the wake of is used as the RBI governor's warning does in the wake of the Prime Minister announcing significant interest subventions. Prime Minister recently announced interest subventions and credit guarantees, and this statement of Urjit Patel came in the wake of the Prime Minister announcing significant interest subventions. So, subsequent to Prime Minister's announcement, this statement came. It makes the point that the fear of political displeasure will not prevent Patel from making public his professional views on vital matters. Vital means important matters, most important. So, it speaks of the Urjit Patel's courage to speak, and the fear of political displeasure is not there. So, he spoke with courage that the political masters may take it in the adversary way. Leaving that fear, he spoke openly, because this statement came after Prime Minister's interest subventions and credit guarantees. Now, he made the nation proud, he made the nation a valid service, valuable service, not only enhanced his reputation, and on vital matters, vital means important matters, vital. Here, washing your hands with the soap before taking food is vital, that is extremely important, otherwise you may fall prey to some diseases. So, washing your hands before taking food is vital necessity, otherwise what happens, then some germs may go inside. So, vital means extremely important, necessary for success or continued existence of something, right. So, here this it makes the point that fear of political displeasure will not prevent Patel from making public his professional views on vital matters, important matter. Giving that message is as vital as the sense on interest rates in the interest of the RBI's institutional image, right. So, this is about this article, and here what he want to convey is large scale interest subventions, credit guarantees will subvert the entire loan process, because of which misallocation of resources will take place from sometimes to the risky projects, and non-risky projects may not get due credit for loans allocation. Under these circumstances, overall welfare of the country will suffer. So, this is the statement and meaning of the statement made by Urjit Patel, and tomorrow we are going to deliberate on the autonomy and credibility of Reserve Bank of India, that is ring fence Reserve Bank of India. This we will discuss tomorrow at 12 noon. Right friends, this is about comprehension and vocabulary. Please do join tomorrow. Have a nice day. Thank you. Thanks a lot.